Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Week in Guns, brought to you by Patriot Patch Company, VZ Grips, TacPack, and Primary Arms. This show offers
sound of dogs barking.
Yes, this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Matthew Rosier, and I'm here with my co-host, Otis P. Spunkmeyer, third heir, the popped corn fortune. Such a pleasure to have you.
Anything that would be amazing.
What do you mean? If you are?
No. Okay, sure.
Yeah. So this is a funny thing. Because of our little hurricane, our little Herman cane that hit Florida, right. I wasn't able to join Othais.
I mean, you were able, but you were scared. It's okay.
I wasn't able to join Othais for a shooting event, and somebody came up and noticed you in a weird way, didn't they?
A couple of times, but yeah, I'm going to tell you, so many people wanted to know where Matt was at that whole event. Do you know that? You have homies there.
Anyway, answer the question.
Which one? I've had several of your fans approach me.
The guy who...
The one who... I'm sorry, I'm not your non-fan. There's a gentleman that I met who is a machine gun guy, and he said that he gets all these stupid comments now where people tell him that open bolts are legal because of this idiot on the internet named Fuddruckers. I immediately called Matt and told him this, and he was so happy.
I was also, very
every
happy.
time I call you, you're in a car with Pew. What does that mean?
It's almost as if he's my business partner.
I know, but why are you guys always in the car together?
We have to do a lot of business drives. And anyway, what about the actual fan as well?
Oh, yeah, I got recognized the other day at an event, and it was, aren't you that guy that was on Fudbusters?
Which is so entertaining to me.
Yeah, and I told him, because he was a real fan, so I said, you should join the Fudbusters Discord. And he said, oh, you had to be a patron to do that, and he was very poor. And I said, that's $1 a month. That's $12. And I tried to give him a 20 out of my wallet. I'm like, here's like over a year and a half. And he said, I'll think about it. So,
and you get a 10% discount if you pay the whole year.
Number one fan.
Well, I just thought that was so funny because that's actually happened to us more than one time. And the weird thing is, Othais has like 400,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and, but the people that like Matt. Also, the color temperature on my light is changing at random. That's a fun game.
Whereas I currently have 38,000 and losing fast ever since I did the video on making fun of that Hellfire Trigger guy. People,
wait, really? You've been losing subscribers over that?
Yes.
Oh.
The day I uploaded that, I just saw it went below, 0 and stayed there for weeks.
Why is it negative though? What are the complaints?
I'm not getting, I got a few like schizoid comments, but I think people are just, I don't know. They might perceive that I'm like against the concept of rapid fire devices or something like that. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, if you're one of the ones that left over it, let us know what the actual problem is. I mean, it could be that they don't like perceived negativity. It could be that they were misinterpreting what you were saying. It could be that you're a jerk and they don't like you.
That's true. I am a jerk. So let's move into the news now. And this is a case that I very much like. Was very much rightly decided. But I have to say I wasn't really expecting it.
Okay.
This is the district court in West Virginia.
Oh, Mountain Mama.
Yeah, that's right. That's where how you get home, right?
Right.
Found that the 922, I think it's K, the prohibition on possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number.
When was that introduced? Do you remember? Was that the 60s?
Yes, it was one of the enabling amendments to the GCA.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Was unconstitutional. And this, I feel like, probably sent DOJ into a blind panic.
Now, wasn't this that they had made sort of an originalist argument where, were they citing Bruen? Is that what was going on? And they said that because Bruen said that you have to interpret it from what was considered the wording at the time. And,
it's not so much the wording of the time, but it's the test under Bruen is the regulation consistent with deeply rooted in our nation's text history and tradition and consistent therewith. So the question would be whether making it a felony to possess a firearm with serial numbers removed or removing the serial numbers on a firearm, could historically have been prohibiting. And obviously it is not. It's kind of nice. The judge put here, firearms with no serial number are just as bearable as the same firearm with a serial number, and there is no common use issue here, as the presence or lack of a serial number makes no difference with respect to whether the type of weapon is commonly used. Finally, I can find no authority for the idea that a firearm without a serial number would meet the historical definition of a dangerous or unusual firearm. And I'd just like to come in and correct this judge here. That is a common misconception. This dangerous or unusual firearm thing, that is not a deeply rooted test. That is not a deeply rooted definition in the U.S. There were historical traditions barring the carrying of dangerous and unusual weapons in such a way as would cause terror. So,
right, so like walking around with a hand grenade.
Well, walking around with a hand grenade, pin out, holding the spoon and screaming.
Yeah, exactly. Just like walking around with a the early grenades where you had to light them.
Yeah, you just got it next to a cigar.
That was considered in poor taste.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I don't know if the audio was messed up before now. I've suddenly remembered I wasn't wearing my headphones, so I put them.
You sounded fine.
Oh, okay, good.
But so what I like here is, and I think it's completely correct, but now you've got all this.
Oh, wait, now I just realized we've totally missed out on the Anchorman reference there.
Oh, yeah.
Just brick in the middle of the fight with a hand grenade. Like,
Where'd
exactly that.
Although it didn't seem to cause terror in the other side of that fight.
Well, they were busy at the time.
But yeah, it's a fairly straightforward application of Bruen. I think it's completely correct. But what I like here is all of these jurisdictions are playing these games, trying to get rid of 80% firearms, trying to get rid of home building and all this stuff. And then this court just kind of takes a pot shot at their knee where it's like, well, yeah, who cares if it's got a serial number or not? Right. You can whack it off.
It doesn't matter if you obliterate the serial number. Does that mean we still have to put them on things and then we could just take them right back off? Like, what?
So he did for some reason, and if you read the text, you can tell this judge is not wanting to do this.
Oh, he doesn't want to do the thing he did right.
Right, exactly. No, he was like desperately trying to like wiggle, and you could kind of see him do that. He did seem to indicate that that requiring manufacturers to serialize firearms to put into commerce is acceptable. He's citing the Interstate Commerce Clause there. What that has to do with founding era law, I don't know. He was of the opinion that requiring dealers and manufacturers to serialize firearms doesn't infringe any right to keep or bear arms, which I think is BS. So he gave a few examples. Assume, for example, that a law-abiding citizen purchases a firearm from a sporting goods store. At the time of the sale, that firearm complies with the commercial regulation that it bears a serial number. The law-abiding citizen takes the firearm home and removes the serial number. He has no ill intent and never takes any otherwise unlawful action with the firearm.
This serial number looks stupid.
Yeah, I hate it. Yeah. Contrary to the government's argument that 922K does not amount to an infringement on the law-abiding citizen's Second Amendment right, the practical application is that while the law-abiding citizen's possession of the firearm was originally legal, it became illegal only because the serial number was removed. He could be prosecuted federally for his possession of it. That is the definition of an infringement on one's right to possess a firearm.
Uh-oh.
Then
what happens if you trip and fall and you scratch off your serial number?
Yeah.
I mean, what, I gotta go do something about that? No, it's fine.
Another example he gives is assume that the law-abiding citizen dies and leaves his gun collection to his law-abiding daughter. The daughter takes the firearms, the one with the removed serial number among them, to her home and displays them in her father's memory. As it stands, 922K also makes her possession of the firearm illegal, despite the fact that it was legally purchased by her father and despite the fact that she was not the person who removed the serial number. These scenarios make clear that 922K is far more than the mere commercial regulation the government claims it to be. Rather, it is a blatant prohibition on possession. The conduct prohibited by 922K falls squarely within the Second Amendment's plain text.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah, I do agree, and I think
I'm
it's really super
surprised.
funny.
I'm super surprised, but I agree.
But remember, guys, this case isn't over. While the decision, it may be upheld, or it may stand exactly where it is, in which case it would only be binding
Is this
precedent.
going to be one of these situations in which they just drop all charges on this guy, so none of this ever makes it into the books?
Well, so right now, this is binding precedent in West Virginia.
Okay, good. Because as far as I understand it, every time we look like we're going to get a win, they just stop prosecuting.
Well, right. Well, this is already after appeal, so it's
Okay,
done.
Good.
Like the opinion is there, but so the question is whether the government will take the risk to appeal this to the circuit court, right?
Because it could go even better.
Right.
The circuit court's going to go like, why are we requiring manufacturers to put serial numbers on? God, that would be the best anti-registry thing you could ever. I mean, could you imagine?
Just imagine what you know what the best part is? You know where ATF's head office is? Martinsburg, West Virginia.
Oh. I'm surprised the West Virginians let them in there.
They probably were sleeping or in a coal haze of some sort while it happened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, there it is. So I think that's really cool. In other interesting gun law news, so this has been something that's been a very big concern. And we've seen adherence to, like some of the big anti-gun think tank people are like, well, hold on. We can avoid this whole Constitution thing if we just do all this privately, right? Like homeowners associations should put covenants, right?
Right.
To prevent you from having firearm. Apartments and owners of large tracts of commercial land should all get together and say no firearms.
Right.
Well, we've seen the first big case dealing with this, although it's not a perfect application for the overarching fear. It is a early application. And this is in
before you go any further, I just want to make a PSA on this front. Every once in a while, I hear people getting excited for driverless cars. And just anybody that's pro 2A,
yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't allow driverless cars ever. Do you not understand that the minute that they have good driverless cars, first of all, they'll probably prohibit owning a car. You'll have to lease a car no matter what. Like it'll be a service, cars as a service. And guess what's going to be in the terms of service? No firearms, none. They're not going to let you have them in the little car. They won't let you have them in. They won't let them have them in Ubers and stuff, right? And I know everybody's gonna be like, "Well, I just hide mine." It's like, okay, fine, but when they start saying we can't take you to the gun store because terms of service,
right?
So
it's like, what are you doing at the gun range?
Right?
Yeah,
no joke.
Yep. No, that's something that people get frustrated with me for being like freaked out about, but.
I also there's culturally, and this has nothing to do with what you're about to say, but culturally, I think that driving is one of the last adult things we have to do. It's like it's one of the last things that your average person must be a cognizant and responsible human being about. Right. And I feel like once driving is gone, the infantilization of the modern American, at least, will be complete.
Yeah, no, it's going to go full. What's that? It's going to be like Wall-E.
Or just like everybody will just perpetually be one of the Rugrats, like just toddling around, shitting in a diaper, and vaguely aware of what's going on in the world.
Well, vaguely aware of what is on your pleasure screen, right?
Yeah. Oh my god.
But that's. If you guys ever watched Wall-E, like the humans are not a big part of that movie, but I think they are the biggest parts because they're all just these like turbo obese chair dwellers, and they're on these self-driving chairs that just take them about their lives and feed them nonsense right through the pleasure screen.
Right. Honestly, the one thing that's, and I understand it's a Disney movie or Pixar, right. I think. The one thing they got wrong is that they're wearing pants.
Sorry, that's out the window.
Yeah.
That's not happening. Yep. Well, so
I'm sorry, we're never gonna do it. We gotta talk about the actual topic, or we're just gonna go down the cultural landfill.
Yeah, which some of our viewers like. But
okay, then I'll say it.
Yeah,
there was a Professor Brothers Flash animation back in the day. You remember those guys?
I do.
Washington, yeah.
Yeah.
One of their little ones that most people never saw was they were predicting the future, and one of the guys goes, "Oh, the future is going to be Horror World. It's going to look like Horror World, like it's and then but it's going to look like that. It's not going to be actually that. So everybody will be like dressed naked, but then no one will have sex with each other." And I'm going, "Oh my god, like we're halfway there."
Yeah, wow, that's true.
Of all the things to come true that I heard in my childhood, everybody being naked all the time and not willing to touch each other was not one I ranked high as a probability.
Yeah, and yet here we are.
Yeah.
So this interesting case, which now is where the timestamp is going to be for that.
Yeah.
Columbia Housing and Redevelopment Corporation v. Kinsley Braden. So this case concerned a individual, right, who had signed a lease at this Columbia Housing Corporation, which is a government subsidized apartment, effectively.
Okay, right? It's like a Section 8 thing?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Effectively, a multifamily low-income public housing complex in Columbia, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So the tenant voluntarily entered into a lease that contained a prohibition against firearms on the premises. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, the tenant defended against a detainer action, contending that the lease agreement, this provision of the lease agreement, violated the Second Amendment. So the trial court said, "Well, no, this is voluntary. You signed it. You signed a thing, and it's a contract." Okay. Court of Appeals steps in and it's like, hold on a second, right? There's a government actor here. Effectively, right? The Columbia Housing and Redevelopment Corporation, like they take government money. They're effectively a branch of the government. Mm-hmm. So that means they don't get to contract away on things that affect people's rights, because enforcement of that would then be state action. Right. And that's something that people have to remember. The important thing here is that there is nothing I could do to violate Othais' First Amendment rights, because I am not and will not ever be an agent of the state.
Right.
An individual cannot violate your rights. There's an interesting question here that we'll get to a little later as this goes on. But so here, this housing corporation, which works with the government, puts this contract saying no guns, okay? Mm-hmm. So the good thing here is that the court stepped in and said, whoa, first of all, that's obviously a Second Amendment infringement. And second of all, it's because of the state character of the enforcement, we can't just rely on contract. We have to exploit the Second Amendment, and thus no go.
You would have a similar problem if the housing authority through a government program was saying that you weren't allowed to speak negatively about the government, or if they said you were not allowed to vote for the duration that you were in the project. You know what I mean? Like it would make sense on the surface for any other right. Right. And yet they're going to have a unique provision for the Second Amendment that they've been enforcing for however long.
Yep.
Now, of course, if the gentleman was already a felon or something else, that's a separate issue. But this is just by the coming in here and living here, you no longer have this one right. Number 2 on the list, by the way. So, yeah, it seems a little bad.
Right. So this doesn't settle the whole question, though. The big question here is going to be, what about when big housing companies, right, management companies get together and put this in their leases, ones that have not taken any government money?
Well, we're supposed to not allow for collusion and monopoly, but guess what? We don't ever police.
Exactly. And
that's sort of the problem that you would constantly run into. Is I understand that it's a free market and you're supposed to be able to have a you say, well, it's a non-government actor, and you go, okay, well, boy, it sure seems like there's only 4 entities in this field, none of which are technically government, but they all completely cooperate with the government and collude with each other to enforce the exact same principles across the board. That's pretty wild.
So I've written about this problem, and I believe a good solution would be for the states to specifically adopt a law saying that such provisions will not be enforced in any court. I do think that there's a theory that bringing the court in to enforce you can't possess firearms in this housing condominium, whatever unit, like that enforcement mechanism, them going to eviction, become like it will at some point gain state character. And it's slippery because the state can enforce private contracts, right, that could contain provisions that the state wouldn't be able to do, such as with non-disparagement agreements or non-disclosure agreements, right? I don't know. It's slippery. It's scary, and this is a concern that is really acute.
I mean, again, it's a unique problem that we face because we don't want government overreach. And this is the other thing is people like to make fun of, let's say, libertarians, because libertarians tend to represent people who are the most concerned with just limiting government power in every direction. So people say, oh, the libertarians love open borders.
Right.
Well, yes, but they also love completely ending entitlements whatsoever, so that there's no real benefits other than trying to come in and work your butt off. Like, in other words, the libertarians would tell you, we don't want any freebies, and therefore anybody coming here won't get any freebies either, you know?
Right.
The problem people find is, what order do you unpack that in? Because you can end up in a situation in which you say, okay, I don't want freebies and I do want open borders, but then if you start just fighting for one ahead of the other, you can get caught in a downturn because the ideal scenario requires both to be functional at the same time.
Yes.
And this is another one of those classic traps where you go, uh-oh, hold on a second. We don't want you to lose your rights just by seeking a place to live. But we do want people who own private land to be able to decide what to do with that land.
Right.
But by seeking to rent, do you inherent? Can someone say that if you rent my house, you're not allowed to vote? Like,
that is an interesting question.
Because that's the problem, right? Like, and we think firearms are a unique case because somehow there's an emotional sense there, but we keep forgetting that you have a right to free speech, you have a right to bear arms, and then you have all your other rights that we use all the time too. And so by that effect, can you say, I want to live in this apartment, and by doing so, my landlord is allowed to set up cameras in every room of the house, and that's the only way I'm allowed to go in there. And by the way, I have to consent to that because every other landlord in the entire city does the same thing. Would that not draw some sort of legal action?
Well, and more realistically, they're all part of the same umbrella corporation.
Right.
Right.
I think we have a problem with, first of all, the number one problem with why this is happening is because we don't trust bust. We shouldn't be allowing vertical columns of, let's call it economic power like this, but we don't trust bust anymore.
It's not cool anymore.
Yeah, and then secondarily, we do have sort of a natural cross purposes things where how much can one person take from another in rights in exchange for housing?
Right.
It's really bizarre.
So there's a couple things there. So for one, as far as the trust thing goes, I might not echo your concerns as much, but I think that the trust problem is solved completely if at some point your collusion with government, because invariably these large entities collude and work with government.
Correct.
I think that at some point, and it should be like a fairly hair trigger, you should lose the ability to, claim that you are a completely independent private actor, right? You should be treated kind of like a public utility, and people get mad at me for bringing that up, where it's like, yeah, no, you're a private company. You just can't violate people's rights in your contract.
My gut reaction on that is, if you're a publicly traded company, then you should have to be held to the same standards as the government, because there's so much liability screen that comes in.
Right.
People can, if as a sole entrepreneur, if I violate someone else's rights, I'm in trouble. But if I incorporate and have a board, I can basically kill a guy, and all they can do is take whatever money's in the bank for the business, unless there's something particular to my personal action on it, And the bigger the company gets, the more you get away with this crap. It's very hard to pin down an individual when they're hiding in a big corporation. And yet many individuals are making quite a bit of benefit out of those relationships. So I think, incorporation has its value. A business as an entity does have a certain value. It's allowed us to do some very big, amazing economic things. But I kind of think the cost of being a corporation is that you should have to honor, at least the Bill of Rights, for God's sake, when you're dealing with people.
I mean, we're not talking about something that is incredibly binding of hands either.
Right. It's the standard by which the government does its job, and it gets away with all sorts of crap.
So the other thing here that's interesting is that there's another answer, and that over the common law, courts developed over a long period of time certain provisions that they would refuse to enforce simply on public policy grounds. So contracts to marry, for example, are just historically non-enforceable. If some judges had some, what do you call them, balls, they could just straight up say, this is this is not good public policy.
You're gonna have to do it.
Wait, what?
You took that engagement ring. You're in now.
I would like them to have the balls to say that, hey, your right to, like, you telling a person, if you want to buy this ice cream machine, well, you're going to have to agree not to vote and not to ever own guns. A court should be willing to say, you know what? I'm just not going to enforce that.
Yeah.
It's against public policy. Period.
I mean, it'd be nice, but the problem is you still get dragged around by it for a while too. It'd be nice to just have it actually locked down to no, F off. Because we see that in the gun. Actually, the gun realm sees a lot of interesting law, because we had to have specific laws around how advertising a gun for sale doesn't make you liable for anything done with the guns down the road. And then guess what?
Right.
They still did an end run around that because they made a tactical ad, which somehow meant murder. I don't understand. And yet guess what they did? They got away with it, right? So we always see this stuff where we end up into very weird special use cases because they're just willing to twist and contort around every technicality they can get to swing on the gun industry. Which I guess is why we're weirdly in a position where we want more armor. And it's always surprising to me how hard it is to get proactive armor on an individual civil right. When it's so incredibly easy to get proactive bias towards the restriction on an individual civil right just because someone saw one endangered beetle there, or because
property rights basically don't exist in this country anymore.
Dude, I have seen guys in the restaurant industry get nailed two ways because the municipal code will say the kitchen door has to swing out, and the state code or whatever will say it has to swing in. And they'll have two inspectors show up and both argue both ways. And they're constantly getting fined in both directions. And guess what they can't do? Get the two to talk to each other, figure out what the heck's going on. I mean, it's a little bit of a generic case, but I mean, we can get caught in all this sort of proactive regulation that has, you have to beat the doors down and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fight your way out of those things. And yet, can we create something that says, hey, once this starts happening, it just stops? So an example of that in the gun world would be castle doctrine, which is like, hey, no, you can't do it.
Yep, and that was created specifically in response,
right?
To
it's so
nonsense.
It's so hard to create more of those, though.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It is easy to create, though.
Animo grips.
Yeah, and good times.
Oh, okay.
You like these sunglasses?
Where'd you get those at?
I received these in my TacPack.
That sounds vaguely sexual, but I'm intrigued.
Well, so TacPack is it's a loot box, right? It's one of those box things. But listen, I know we've seen a lot of these over the years, and most of them have been.
Is this what we would call pay to win?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is pay to win.
Is this a form of gambling?
Perhaps.
Okay.
But anyway,
we will skirt the law.
I don't know. So it's not that type of gambling; it's the other type.
Oh, okay. Look, all I care about is that I feel lucky.
Well, anyway, so I'm sure you and I can both agree that most of the loot boxes are not good.
Right.
So I thought that
we have a mutual friend who used to be responsible for a loot box.
Yeah.
And you know what he said to me one time? He said, Othais, I tried very hard to make investments in large, cool items that people would want.
Mm-hmm.
But I was under pressure to throw in whatever garbage was cheap. And then, because of that decision, that loot box became less and less popular, and I don't even think it's available anymore.
It is not.
So what kind of things are in this loot box, Matt? Did they make the correct decision?
They did. So
Okay.
you get a handful of items. It's going to be over $120 worth of stuff, street value, and it's
Retail value?
under $50.
Okay, so you spend $50.
Yep.
And then they mail you $120 of stuff.
Of stuff, right?
Okay.
So I got these glasses.
How much
These
were
were
those in stuff?
I don't know.
Okay. Look, I'm trying here.
I got this, the Luthar precision rifle stock. This was
What
great.
is that? Wait, hold on. Go back. What's that do?
It's an AR precision rifle stock.
So that goes on the buffer tube?
Yeah, it goes on the bruffer.
How many buttons are on that? That looks like it's got like
Got a lot of
$30
buttons.
worth of buttons at least.
It easily $30 in buttons. I got a Seekins muzzle device.
What does that do?
This makes your flash go right away.
What is it, like a bird?
It's a flash hider.
Yeah, but what kind is it? I can't see.
It's like it's a 4-hole. Or no, it's a 3-hole, and they're twisted around. So the idea is that it dissipates the flash better.
Uh-huh. So is it like somebody twisted an A2?
The unique design of the nest swirls hot gases immediately after exiting the muzzle, extinguishing visible flash immediately.
Hmm.
Yep. I got a pocket knife,
What kind of
which
pocket
was
knife?
nice. American Buffalo Knife and Tool Company.
What kind of steel?
Let's see.
Does it say it on there?
It doesn't. So
The
that
suspense
tells
is
me
gro-
it's not made directly in China, because they always lie about
Yeah,
it.
they do. They laser that stuff on there so fast.
Yeah, this is a D2 steel.
Oh, ooh, tool steel.
Yep, actual tool steel.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
And this is a decent size knife.
I'm the kind of jerk that prefers a D2 knife, and I just spend the extra time sharpening it more carefully because I really beat up my knives.
Yeah, me too. I've gotten to the point where I've started carrying a one of those folding box cutters.
Yeah.
In addition to a regular knife, because I was just ruining.
Does the
carrying.
TacPack often give you different knives?
I've only gotten one so far, so we'll have to see.
How many TacPacks have you gotten?
I've gotten one so far.
Oh, okay, well that's 1 to
This is a
1.
new thing.
Okay.
Well,
I don't.
You're right.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
So I looked it up when you advertised it last time, and I noticed that they often give out a knife, which I really like as a feature because I have found getting a number of different knife shapes in my hand has led me to appreciate how to use different types of knife. Like I never really cared about sheep's foot knives until I got a hold of one.
Yeah, I got one because of you.
Right, and it's insanely handy for certain things. So I've become sort of more of a connoisseur of different knife shapes now.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, guys, I also got just an interesting thing, a Battle Arms Development mag catch.
What does that do?
It's a mag catch for an AR.
Is it better than a normal one?
It's shaped more interesting.
What does it do?
But anyway,
Is it red for
this
my
ad has
pleasure?
gone on long enough. So new subscribers, listen, I got a special offer for you. If you thought $120 worth of items for $50 was a good deal, if you're a new subscriber and you use my code that I give you, and my code is WEEK, WEEK, you will get at least $70 of additional free gear that will ship separately from your first monthly TacPack. So you will get a special bonus gift. So check them out. That is TacPack, TacPack.com. They support the show. Give them some love for loving us so tenderly and passionately.
Well,
And that's that.
is that how we know the ad was running? You were wearing the sunglasses?
Yeah, I think that's going to be my shtick
Okay.
until they send me a new accessory.
Okay.
Yeah, I also got an axe and just some other stuff. So there was like
But there's
two
an
bladed
axe?
weapons. Yeah, there was an axe in that.
I want to see the axe. Wait, we didn't go with the axe? Those
No, because I was
commercials
using
gone
it,
on
but it
long
don't
enough,
work.
but then I
Yeah.
don't show you that you get in it. Oh, look,
I'll
it's
show you
got-
the axe next
It's
time.
got
I put it
sunglasses and a pocket knife and
somewhere.
a mag release.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to
It-
mention the axe. There was an
Yeah, it came
axe
with an
in
axe.
there.
Anyway. So
God.
let's press forward. I'll show you guys the axe next time.
Okay. Do they have
this
ninja
was-
stars? I want ninja stars.
So this is something that you and I have talked about a lot. You know how people often are like, oh, well, yeah, they can pass that new gun law, but my sheriff, he's a Republican.
Mm.
He's not going to do any of that gun control
I'm
here.
glad this is the thing we're talking about that we talk about a lot.
I don't know what you mean by that. Anyway.
Yeah, okay.
did this become like germane recently in your life?
No, this is something you and I talk about where it's actually kind of what we were just talking about a second ago, which is there's the we won't enforce it thing. Like the court, we're literally just a second ago, we're talking about how courts would be nice if they didn't enforce things. Okay. And also it's nice that if sheriffs don't enforce things, great.
Yeah.
What if we just had proactive protection to begin with and didn't leave it to, the discretion? It's really weird to make everything illegal and just rely on the discretion of your sheriff as to whether or not he's going to arrest you that week. That's kind of not an ideal scenario.
Right. Well, so
honestly, if you make everything illegal and just let the sheriff decide whether or not to prosecute it, I think you've technically created Judge Dredd.
Yeah, and the nation of Mexico.
Yeah.
So this is New York. And this is one of the things that people are like touting is like, haha, take that, New York. Their concealed carry laws don't apply in counties where sheriffs won't enforce them. Well, one, that's not true. They do apply.
It's like concealed carry doesn't apply as long as you don't find it.
And they're talking about Sheriff Milby being among at least half a dozen sheriffs, at least half a dozen. That's really comforting, I'm sure, if you're a New Yorker, in upstate New York, who have said they have no intention of, and here it goes, aggressively enforcing gun regulations that state lawmakers passed last summer.
Does that mean they're still going to slap extra charges on dum-dums they pick up?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is Sheriff Milby, who's the leader here. Sheriff Milby is saying it's basically everywhere. And if anyone thinks we're going to go out and take a proactive stance against this, well, that's not going to happen.
No, it just means that they're not going to go arrest you specifically for doing that and trying to find you for doing that. They're just going to wait until you do something else, catch you with it, and then slap it on as an extra. That's what they always do.
This is like from another one of these sheriffs. I have to enforce it because I swore to uphold the laws, but I can use as much discretion as I want.
Okay,
said Richard C. Giardino.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Well, if somebody intentionally flouts the law, then they're going to be handled one way. But if someone was unaware that the rules have changed, then we're not going to charge someone with a felony because they went into their barbershop with the carry concealed.
And then the second time they do it.
And then yet another one, Mike Filicetti. We'll take the complaint, but it will go to the bottom of my stack. Mm-hmm. There will be no arrest made without my authorization, and it's a very, very low priority for me.
I get it. These guys are probably playing a game of keeping themselves out of trouble by saying an absolute. But
I don't know, man.
Even if one of them's perfect at it, right? Like, let's say one of those guys is, because I don't know those guys. They're spot on. They might be doing the best they can. It shouldn't be on them to have to make this decision at all. Like, I'm not trying to make fun of them, but I am saying it's the flimsiest protection you could ever have, and it is such a cope to say. And I run into it all the time. Well, the sheriff in my county would never allow blah blah, and it's like, okay, good, whatever. And then they'll vote in someone else, or he'll turn out to have lied. Because guess what?
Well, my uncle Randy's a cop, and he said he ain't going to do any of that gun control.
Yeah, right. Okay, so he wrote you a little note, like a little doctor's note. So if you ever get arrested for it later, the judge goes, "Oh crap, he got the note from the sheriff, so I can't do anything now. My hands are tied. We can't."
This is Randy's friend.
We can't prosecute this guy because he's got the note. No, it's not. It is a non-protection.
Yep. I actually have. I have somebody who's a client that has told me repeatedly he's not worried about the ATF doing whatever it's doing because he's worked with them and they are on good terms and all this stuff.
Oh God.
And guess who's representing him at a revocation hearing?
Oh wow. Oh,
yeah. Amazing.
You mean an organization made up of like thousands of people who have an inherent bias against your rights didn't honor one person's promise to not do the bad thing to you? Wow, that's so crazy. How could that have possibly happened?
It's like, you know what?
They didn't send out a memo like, oh, hey, 17 years ago, Todd said no takesy backsies. Like, Jesus Christ, guys. I understand. I understand that it's sad when this stuff turns against you. It's sad and scary. Be scared and be proactive. Don't just sit there and be like, I'll be safe because of feelings.
Well, this is...
Sorry, am I too harsh?
No, I mean, I don't think so. But it is sad. Look, guys, here's the other thing. The guy mentions taking an oath to uphold the laws.
Right.
What about the other part? Almost every oath of public service. Yes.
Oh, no,
protect and uphold the Constitution.
The law is way more important than the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's why we try to arrest mentally deficient people to get case law that goes in the face of our rights.
Yeah. Listen, local law is more important than the supreme law of the land. In my opinion, as your Slarif.
I'd be happy to see that. Just be like, nope, it's not in the Constitution. Take a hike. I would have been happy to read that. That's the sheriff I would trust.
Yeah.
Not the, well, I gotta technically do it, but I'm gonna put it at the bottom of the stack so that I only arrest you on Sunday.
Yeah, no. So the only time you gotta worry about me is if it's the end of the month and ain't no one been stealing.
Not me or none of my deputies are gonna arrest you except for that new guy we hired.
Yeah, who we told if he doesn't get 4 arrests, he's done.
If it turns out to be unpopular, we'll fire him so that I don't take any heat.
Yeah, everyone will be happy at the end. Yeah. Well, next up, speaking of like spitting in the face of people's rights, you remember that little Supreme Court decision that we had that said, "Hey, states, can you like knock it off with not letting people carry guns?"
Oh, you mean the one that said, and by the way, don't just start making special provisions for entire 10-mile square areas to be considered, what was it?
Sensitive place.
Sensitive zones.
Yeah, sensitive zone.
Sensitive.
Well, New Jersey views this as a challenge.
Well, they're sensitive.
In response, is what some of the New Jersey politic lizards are saying. In response to the Supreme Court's ruling, New Jersey
Supreme Court can't tell me not to step on people. I'm going to step on them.
Yeah, I'm the big stepper. They are poised to enact the nation's strongest gun law.
What is that?
So if you want to carry, you're going to need liability insurance. You're going to ban guns from being carried in 25 different categories, including but not limited to government buildings, healthcare facilities, airports, casinos, and private properties where the owners have not given express permission to have guns. So listen, the reason for this
is going to go over well, right?
Yeah. Look, Senate President Nick Scutari says that our way of life is being threatened here in New Jersey.
Yeah. How are we gonna go around and make everybody do everything they don't want to do if they could shoot us for it?
Yeah. Well, essentially, our way of life is being threatened by certain things that have gone on in the federal government.
You don't understand how deeply unpopular I am in my own state. I don't want the peasants armed.
Listen, the goal here, Othais, what you're not understanding is because of your tiny idiot brain.
Okay.
Is that the governor just wanted to ensure that residents and visitors to the Garden State, America's armpit, could be confident in their safety in sensitive locations such as daycares, hospitals, stadiums, and public transit.
Who's popping off at the daycare? Like, what the heck are we talking about here?
Well, yeah, no, I totally feel safe in public transit when I don't have a gun. Like, that's when I want to have the gun. I want to have the most guns.
You ever just watch videos of, like, the subways up there?
Yeah.
Just
people getting knifed, like, constantly. So,
I feel like they need to... You know what? Here's the thing, though. It needs to be legal to carry on the subway. Like, real legal. And then I need to open a business at, like, every subway terminal that is... like hollow point wad cutter reduced load bullets, so it's like guaranteed no over penetration, just like specifically for use in the subway so that you can pop the meth head but you don't hit grandma.
So it's got to be is that it's like in Cyberpunk when you'd go up to the gun vending machine and it would 3D print the gun with the ammunition in it. Yeah, these are going to be like one time is your subway gun, and it's got these wad cutter like 50 grain little.
Okay, I'm a bad person. All right, now that we're on this topic, do you know what I was considering the other day?
What?
Because people were talking about, I actually had somebody talking to me about, well, you don't understand, in these cities you can't just have a firearm because there's so many people that are in the backdrop of whatever you're doing. So if you end up in a defensive scenario on the subway, you've got a real risk of whatever else. And I said to that person, I said, you do not understand innovation. And they said, what? And I said, have you ever seen like a cattle killer, like a captive bolt pistol?
Those are so metal. Because
that one of those would be amazingly scary, but incredibly safe to everyone around you for self-defense. But guess what you'd have to use? You'd have to use a blank-powered cartridge. They definitely consider it a firearm in those cities.
Right.
And it would be a bloody mess. But, but you're not gonna lie, that would be very effective. Like,
yeah, I'm imagining one that uses like a 12 gauge blank and it has like a 2.5 foot range. Just, boom!
That's the carbine version.
Yeah, it's like got an inch and a half wrecker.
The way shit goes down in the subway though, like that stuff's always right on top of you. Like everybody's like, I want a taser. Yeah. I'm like, I want a captive bolt gun. It's like, boom.
That would be like the single most gruesome implement devised by man.
To be fair, it would be so safe to everybody else in the friggin' room.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll come out with the captive bolt carbine, and I'll come out with the vending machines full of like 6-shot, not reloadable little nylon pistols that fire a 50 grain 40 caliber projectile.
I call it the get off me gun.
Oh, but yeah. So New Jersey, stupid. Whatever. Of course, the governor has vowed to sign this bill. Let's talk about some good news. Wait, or are you going to say something?
I'm just imagining the guys that survived the thing. Yeah, like you just don't hit it quite right, but they end up with this insane bruise and like shattered bone or whatever, and it's just like
it takes a rib out.
Yeah, there's permanently like marks from that one time they tried to grope somebody.
Yeah, it like grazes them and it just completely removes a rib.
You could also make them pretty quiet too, right? Because they had those Russian cartridges. The pistols were silent not because they had a silencer, but because the cartridges contained all the gas.
Yeah,
like
it was a
captive bolt gun. You could internally suppress that thing so easily.
Yeah, this is a cool idea. Let's play. Right? Let's go play with the machines later. Right. Well, speaking of playing with machines, VZGrips.com.
Do they make any for the captive bolt pistol?
No, but you know what? I'm going to send them a note. These are their most popular products. And so I noticed that I've spent a lot of time whenever we talk about VZ Grips, I've shown off my things.
Wait, go back to that screen.
Hold on. I'm going to go back.
No, but go back.
I'm going to show off my things again.
Okay.
Of course, my end frame with the wonderful hyena brown grips that I love.
Wrong color.
And of course,
the green's better.
It's not better.
The green's better. That's what I have on my gun. I literally have VZGrips.com green grips.
Yeah, I know you do. Well, but do you have Battleship Gray?
That's what I wanted to know. Hold on. That's a very obscure option. Will you look at the site for me?
Okay.
Let me look at it. I want to see.
So yeah, let's. So that's what I was saying. We're gonna look at the most.
I'm flabbergasted because see, I got them for a CZ75, but I didn't know they made them for obscure guns like the 190-1-1.
Yeah, the M1911. Let's take a look. So, what do you want? Full size, compact, or palm swell?
Yeah, it's good for 911 emergency.
Which one? Full size, compact, or palm swell?
I like swell because that's good, right? Swell means good.
The swell means good.
Okay, so the palm.
These are different ones. Ooh, Operator 2. And look at that price. $69. Nice.
That's sexy. Click it. Yeah. Do you think they did? Is it $69 only on the swells? Because somebody did that on purpose.
I don't know.
It's like that game you were playing last night.
Stop. Let's see that. Yeah, oh no, the non-swell ones are $65.
Yeah, they added a couple of bucks.
Well, it's $4 more if you want the Bolt logo.
Oh, okay.
And you can get that in red or black cherry. But yeah, no, it's a cool website. And check it out.
I actually like them. They have a really aggressive texture that I find to be good for the draw.
They really do, and they are just nice to shoot. If you use the promotional code this week 15, that's all one word, THISWEEK15, you'll get a discount. And be sure to leave a note in your order, letting them know that I sent you.
We already tried other numbers; they don't work.
Yeah, we tried the numbers.
We tried to hack it.
We even called customer support.
You should please try to put in this week 25, and when it doesn't work, repeatedly email them asking why.
All right, guys. So yeah, check out vzgrips.com. So this is a story. This next story is one that has like kind of a cute meaning to me as a Floridian.
Mm-hmm.
This state went over 40 years without the passage of a single gun law. And then there was the Parkland shooting, at which point the state Republicans passed some of the strictest gun laws in the Southeast.
Which is always how that goes.
Yes.
It always comes from the Republican camp.
Recently, Nikolas Cruz, the attacker in that case.
Yeah, what happened? Review. Yeah, what happened? Nikolas Cruz. He killed some guys, right?
Yes, at a school in South Florida.
That's the worst thing. Like it is.
It's not nice.
Yeah.
He's a bad man.
Yeah.
And that's why we all had to be punished.
And he did it willfully, of his own volition, with planning and intent.
Yep.
And he harmed children.
Yeah, and he wrote it down too that he was going to do it.
Okay. So we're good, right? We know this is the guy.
Yes.
Okay, so what happened? Oh yeah, I'm just it's always important to review what the heck we're talking about.
Like, what is there like a conspiracy that he didn't actually do it or something?
No, I'm not making a joke, man.
I'm confused.
This is a bad man who hurt children. Well, killed.
He is a bad man,
right? I'm just making sure because we're very flippant on here. I'm making sure that we review that this is because we always joke about but no, I'm actually reviewing this.
Okay,
guy
no, for sure
destroyed lives and families with criminal intent and malice and planning.
An actual criminal,
right? Like
an actual dangerous one. The things that we were supposed to have police protect us from, instead of just sit out by their cars. But one of those. And he
wasn't even high on crack. Like he was just a bad man.
Just a bad man.
Right.
So his sentencing was up, and in Florida we have the death penalty.
Now, what is the death penalty used for?
Egregious, serious felonies against human beings.
Maybe somebody who would intentionally plan to and then execute
destroy children. Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering what the death penalty is for. So this seems like I know where this
it's for several things, and this is most assuredly one of them. There may be some gray cases on the periphery. Right. I don't think that destroying over a dozen children is one of those.
It's like this and giving out candy corn at Halloween.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so the way it works in Florida, when you have these aggravated first-degree murders, any one of them can count for a death sentence. But the jury would have to unanimously move for the death penalty on any one of those counts.
Don't you have to also have a unanimous conviction to begin with? Is it two-stage? I thought I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, right. So with other things, like the jury doesn't need to be 100% unanimous on like how many days, right?
Okay. Yeah.
There's waffling and up and down and and stuff like that.
If you have
death penalty or no, is unanimous.
So if they go for death penalty and even one juror holds out, then it becomes what, life in prison?
Well, that's you're on to the next stage. Like the death penalty's off the table.
Okay.
But most likely life in prison, which is what he actually got. But yeah, so spoiler alert, that's what happened. He narrowly dodged the death penalty. So the jury report basically said that they agreed that there were aggravating factors that justify the death penalty. However, they agreed that there were sufficient mitigating factors to the point where they could not agree in any one instance to go for the death penalty.
Did they enumerate those mitigating factors?
So they didn't. We only have the jury report, which is, it was after only 7 hours of deliberation, which for something like this, I would expect that deliberations would have gone on for much longer.
It sounds like somebody said that they just weren't going to do death penalty.
Possible.
Yeah.
And some people have a principled position on that you can agree or disagree with.
Right. But I think, don't they screen for that when they go in for that jury, though? To my understanding.
Yes. So it has to, yeah.
You have to been on that jury for the decision of whether or not he was going to get the death penalty. I think all the jurors had to agree that they would consider the death penalty. That none of them were explicitly anti-death penalty.
Right.
Okay.
But you can say whatever you want.
There's some controversy now, I believe. There's been some talk, and by the way, it's all talk, but
right.
Some of the people involved are concerned that there was someone on the jury that essentially lied about their position on that, and that they just really didn't believe in the death penalty. However, I believe the other aspect of this is, I think the defense, was it fetal alcohol syndrome or something that they reached?
Well, so that ultimately they dropped that argument.
Okay.
They did. The witnesses for the state said that Cruz faked brain damage, but they did. There's some really heavy stuff that they did bring to the attention of the jury, such as extreme abuse,
right,
from other children, right, and from family members, like very extreme things.
Okay.
Clear mental illness, right? He is a sociopath. So whatever it was, the jury just didn't find that the mitigating or that the aggravating factors outweighed all of the mitigating factors sufficiently, right, to impose the death penalty in any one count.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep. So
a lot of people are going to be unhappy with that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people
also, so here's the other thing.
Going to be happy about it weirdly because many
who really
people
cares?
Who cares what?
I mean, so a death sentence is more costly to the taxpayer.
Is it?
Yes.
It's because of all the appeals.
Mm-hmm. And it's like guaranteed. Like there's a lot of protections involved. It lasts forever.
Right.
And I feel that life in prison is probably more harsh because you're just stuck in one place forever. So,
but do they have Game Boy?
I don't think they have Game Boy.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as they don't have Game Boy.
I do think they get a tablet. And the special chips that people like.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I'm torn on it because, to be honest with you, it depends. I mean, if he's provably guilty and he made a cognizant decision to do this, I feel like there should be consequences to the point of no return in many cases.
So do you think that you think that there's a significant difference between life in prison and the death penalty?
I do, but only in the sense of people understanding consequence, if that makes sense.
I think
for me, the death penalty has more to do with what you're telling the outside world than it does for what you're telling the actual condemned.
Right.
And I know that's not really the way. That's not really how law is supposed to work in the U.S. anyway. But I'm just saying, as a cultural effect, there is something to be said for. All right, Bo, you're out of here. Like you can't. This was extremely rude. You got to go. You know.
Yeah, but a lot of that's the other question though. Is him not getting the death penalty, like, which way does that would that push wannabes and copycats?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, the interesting thing is how many. I don't know if anybody's talked about this, but it's very interesting how many of these shooters recently have not died in the shooting.
Right, because that's
almost a new trend.
Yeah, you'd usually assume that they wanted to not be alive anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it is odd. We've seen a lot of these people live through, and some of the ones in other countries will get out of jail. Yeah,
that is. I'm sorry that does not sit well with me.
So I have very nuanced opinions on criminal justice. Personally, I don't think the death penalty is appropriate as a mechanism because
the state is flawed.
I don't think the state has the right to kill what is at a point, right? Like if the person is not presently being a danger, I don't think the state has the right to kill the person.
To be fair, I would agree with you, but only so much as that we have the luxury to agree.
Right. Yeah.
When the tax rate was 3% and we only had so many people in the United States and most people were in poverty, the idea of paying for someone who was a murderer to just exist in a room,
Right.
even though it was uncomfortable, that would be a complete luxury. I think not having the death penalty is something that we can strive for, because we have a luxurious society.
I agree.
Like,
the elimination of hard labor, right?
I'm not even
That
against
made a lot of
that
stuff
though.
harder.
It depends on what we mean by hard labor, but I do think it shouldn't just be heels up,
Yeah.
summer camp year round kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, not saying it's summer camp, but there are some people that would rather be in jail.
Oh yeah, no,
and it shouldn't be that way.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there's ways to use that labor productively.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean labor. I mean, there's people in there that are plenty bright. They could be applying themselves to something.
No, I have a Corvair that was that had its body work done at a North Carolina correctional facility because they had a school,
right,
where you could drop off your car that needed body work and you'd pay for the paint and materials, and the inmates would get to learn how to fix it.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's that's like my favorite part about my Corvair. It was fixed up by prisoners.
To be fair, I mean, there's even just data sorting. There's so much stuff that you could really be using the help on that I don't think it should be against the rules to have them do work. Right. It's just a matter of what can you make someone do.
Yeah, and on one hand, we don't really want to incentivize the state to like compete in the market using.
Yeah, but I think they should be used for the state to settle the state's own business to reduce costs and potentially lower our taxes, but they'll never do that.
Like road cleanup as they used to do. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so that's all fascinating points of argument, but the main takeaway is the guy sucks. No one's ever going to see him again, and that's good. You can debate in the comments whether or not Florida should have dusted off the electric chair, which it does still have as an option.
I do not think that there's a moral failing in wanting to have the death penalty for someone who willfully takes from so many people like that.
I don't think there's a moral failing in wanting it.
Right. I think the problem is
there's a state problem in doing it.
They're definitely, well, again, luxury, but yes, at the moment.
Right. So, you ever lose a gun?
Who told you?
Right, but usually just for short periods, right?
No, actually, technically they don't. I lost one gun, sort of. Did I ever tell you the story?
No.
It's a good story.
Let's hear it.
There was a pistol that I bought to try out, and frankly, I bought it to try it out, and then Doc saw it, and he wanted one, and I said, actually, I'm going with a different model, so you're more than welcome to have this as your Christmas present.
Is this one of the Steyrs?
Yes. So we went to the range. When he discovered he wanted it, we were at the range. So I swore up and down that I had given it to him at the range, like, here, early Christmas present. Yes.
Right.
And he swore up and down that I took it with me in my car. And the range is privately owned, and it did not stay on the range. We would have known,
Right.
So almost a year went by of us both believing the other one had it. And the real answer is that one of the helpers that was with us packed it up, saw that it was mine, and stuck it in my car, got in my car with us. And when we got back to my place, we unloaded everything into the garage. And the helper was just grabbing stuff out of the garage. And I take a toolbox with me when I go to the range, just in case I need to do stuff. And so they pick up the toolbox, they put it where it goes. And so he goes, where's the tools go? And someone tells him, oh, over on that shelf. So he puts the toolbox on the shelf, and then he grabs the Steyr case and goes, well, it was a different helper, actually. It's two different helpers, which is why this makes sense. The other helper goes, oh, this is also a toolbox, because it's a black plastic gun case, and they're not a gun person. So they just pick up the toolbox and stick it next to their toolbox. And then I just didn't reach for that particular spot on the shelf for like 9 months. Until I finally went looking for like a Dremel or something. And I was like, oh my God.
There it is.
Yeah, it randomly had been stuffed it was driving us all insane because I went through every nook and cranny of my house. He went through every nook and cranny. I mean, we thought we had lost our minds, but no, it had just been stuffed on a shelf in the garage.
I finally got a
which is
one
why
of the
you
newer
shouldn't let
ones,
people
too.
help you unload your stuff. Is what I learned.
Yeah. I finally got one of the newer ones too. So my Steyr M9 collection is back to being complete.
Oh, do you? You have the basic
A3.
series.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story about Steyrs while we're talking?
Yes, sure.
This is a fun fact for you guys, but the gentleman who invented that gun, as far as I'm aware, this is all loosely translated from the German in my terrible memory, but he had a thing for mythical creatures. And so he also invented the caracal, which he named the caracal for mythical creatures. So I have heard that the Steyr M9/S9/L9A1 blah blah blah. Thank you, Steyr, for not giving it a name because it's really frigging annoying, right? He wanted to name it the Draconi, which would be a lot easier because then we could say, "Oh, is that the Draconi? Yeah, which one is it? Oh, it's the S9." You know, whatever we want to talk about. But no, we're just got to do this, which confuses everyone all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, an M9. That's a good gun. You. Was that an M9A1? Still don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And M9A3 also not helpful. Anyway. Yeah. So the army lost one. They lost an M2 Browning.
Oh, that's easy to misplace.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people were talking about this. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding. They didn't lose the whole gun.
Okay.
It was just the receiver. So they were bringing all the stuff out to the range to set up for a training day, and then the M2 receiver is just not there.
Okay.
And so the whole base gets scrambled to do a grid search, right, looking for everything, and they can't find it. Right? And this is the receiver. So ostensibly somebody with an M2 parts kit, because those are just lying around, right, could just whoop it together. Eventually, though, somebody did come forth and admit that they had taken the receiver. And do you know what they did with it?
Oh, God, what?
Well, you'd assume that they had taken it home, of course, to assemble an M2 parts kit with or something like that.
I actually don't assume that because this was an army article, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They threw it in the garbage.
Why?
Days before, and the garbage collectors had come and taken the dumpster.
Why did they throw it in the garbage?
It does not. The article fails to provide that information.
Oh my God.
Then.
Now he's reading. This is good entertainment.
A culprit was identified that afternoon, according to a soldier involved with the search. By evening, the soldier had allegedly confessed to tossing the receiver into a dumpster. At some point, the trash bin had been emptied and its contents, including the machine gun part, had been hauled away.
Was he in charge of timing that thing? Was he just he was supposed to he was trying to set the headspace? He went, just threw it in the garbage.
Everyone obviously looked in their own arms room, but very early on, there were indicators that the dumpsters were important, the soldier told military.com. Whether they were full or whether they were empty, obviously it sucked. That culminated in an hour.
Early on, it was... What? What is going... There must have been some process in place that was misunderstood entirely.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's still not been recovered.
So that's the worst part. Now they gotta go to the dump to find the grid because they have to go pull that thing out.
I don't know, man. This might be publicized, but do you know how many thousands of firearms the military loses every year?
Oh yeah.
I mean, the number of bombs, severe bombs that they lose every year is non-zero. We've lost, what is it, 8 nuclear weapons?
I don't. Just to be careful when you're poking around in the Everglades.
The Everglades don't actually exist. But you know what does exist?
What?
A good friend of mine.
Wait, are you an Everglader?
Patriot Patch Company. Custom designed patches, apparel, ampersand accessories for any freedom-loving individual. You can join the Patch of the Month Club and get a new interesting patch delivered to you every month. This month, it is the Sexy Witch Girl riding an AR-15 rifle.
The blurry thing that
right, as soon as you complain about it. And if you look, the nose is its own independent piece of soft PVC.
So where's the optic at in this picture?
Well,
Anchoring.
Yes. It's like that thing on a horse
Okay.
saddle. What do you call that?
You don't
call
put
it
that
dog?
inside the horse. You're not supposed to put that inside yourself either, man.
Right, but you could like straddle it real good.
That stays
No,
outside.
I know you.
That stays outside the no-no zone.
Well,
I have a complaint about Patriot Patch Company.
okay.
I tore the seam of my pants wide open, and I spent about 30 minutes licking one of their patches, and it would not seal my pants. Apparently, these are just decorative patches. You can't actually hold two things together very well with them.
That's completely unacceptable, and I'm going to have a talk with them to make sure that is made more clear. That these patches are not.
Apparently, you're just supposed to use them to virtue signal and share fun with your friends.
Yeah,
and basically tell everybody how cool guy you are.
Yeah, big guy.
But
yeah, join up for the Patch of the Month Club. It's $15. You get a new patch every month. Here's the art of the, the witch on the firearm. And now I am very much worried about the optics.
Yeah, you're very much aware of where the optic is now, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, unless they're like me and they don't use optics.
No.
But the lack of is that a front sight?
There's an entire LPVO in there.
Neat. Well, so for $15, you too can ponder these questions. And if you use the promo code TWIG10, TWIG10, you will get a discount off of your order, and they will know that I sent you. So do that. Go get the patch, put the thing, and
so wait,
as always,
you get 12 of these a year, right?
Yeah, that's one a month, actually.
Oh, that's impressive.
Sometimes you get two in a thing.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happened with the Liberty one?
Yeah, I got two.
Well, I thought we decided that was for the next month. What's the other one?
I remember.
Okay.
You will get at least one patch every month.
At least one patch.
Yep. Delivery every 1 month. It says right here, subscription details. Yeah. Products are automatically delivered on the first of each month. No obligation. Modify, skip, or cancel your subscription.
Can I make a suggestion about how to use Patriot Patch?
Yeah, how?
You don't have to buy them for yourself.
That's true.
You can have them sent to like that neighbor you don't like, and it would just confuse them terribly. Because out of context, these would mean nothing. At least one person needs to send them to a stranger.
Yeah. One person do it and let me know that you did, and I will send you a free gift.
Yeah.
How about that? All right. Thank you all so much for coming. And as always, see you next time.
Where's the Sean Heron music?
Bow, bow, bow.